The silver doors of the Galactic Council headquarters slid open with a soft hiss. Ambassador Kim took a deep breath, straightening the Blue Earth Alliance uniform that suddenly felt too tight around the collar. The enormous circular chamber stretched before her, filled with beings from 24 worlds. This was it, the first human to ever step foot in these hallowed halls. "Ambassador Kim of Earth, welcome," boomed the voice of Head Counselor Park, a tall, slender being with opalescent skin that shimmered under the chamber's ambient lighting. "Please join us at the central table." Kim walked forward, trying not to stare at the diverse collection of life forms. Some floated in specialized atmosphere bubbles, others stood on multiple legs, and a few seemed to shift form continuously. The Council had been governing interstellar affairs for centuries, before humans had even discovered faster-than-light travel. "As is our tradition with new members," Councillor Park continued, "we begin with personal introductions to foster understanding between our peoples." One by one, the Council members activated small holographic projectors at their stations. Images floated above the table: family units, homeworlds, cultural ceremonies. Kim watched in fascination as each representative shared a small piece of their personal life. "This is my dwelling cluster," explained Councillor Lee, a bioluminescent being who communicated through patterns of light. The hologram showed a beautiful underwater structure, where dozens of similar beings swam in complex formations. When it came time for Councillor Du to speak, the reptilian being stood proudly. Du's scales gleamed a deep emerald green in the chambers, light as he activated his hologram. "My latest clutch," Councillor Do announced with unmistakable pride. The hologram displayed several oval-shaped objects in a carefully arranged nest. Then the image shifted to show tiny reptilian creatures breaking through the shells with specialized hatching teeth. 7 perfect hatchlings, all healthy and strong. Our genetic continuation is assured for another generation. The other council members offered congratulations and appreciative murmurs. Then Du turned to Kim with what appeared to be the reptilian equivalent of a smile. "And you, Ambassador Kim, when was your most recent hatching ceremony? How many eggs did you successfully bring to term?" A hush fell over the room as all attention turned to the human. Kim realized that despite all the research these beings had done on humans, this basic biological difference had somehow been overlooked. "Actually, Councillor Do, humans don't lay eggs," Kim explained carefully. "Our young develop inside the mother's body for about 9 months. Then the baby is born alive, already fully formed, though very small and helpless." The translation matrix hummed as it processed these words, then silence. Complete, utter silence. Councillor Du's inner eyelids blinked rapidly. "No eggs? None at all?" "None," Kim confirmed. "Humans are mammals. Our babies grow inside a special organ called a uterus, connected to the mother through something called a placenta that provides nutrients and oxygen." The council chamber erupted. Some representatives leaned forward with intense interest. Others recoiled in what appeared to be shock or disgust. Several began speaking rapidly in their native languages, overwhelming the translation system. "But how?" Councillor Han, a crystalline being, struggled to form the question. "How does the infant exit?" Kim felt her face grow warm. "Through a birth canal that expands during labor to allow the baby to pass through." More commotion. A representative from the insectoid species at the far end of the table made a sound that the translator couldn't process, but that clearly conveyed distress. "And this is painful?" asked Councillor Park, seeming both horrified and fascinated. "It can be, yes," Kim admitted, "though we have medical techniques to help manage the pain." Councillor Do had not moved or spoken since the initial revelation. The reptilian's scales had paled to a lighter shade of green, which Kim suspected might indicate shock. "So there is no protective shell?" Councillor Du finally asked. "The young are just exposed to the world, vulnerable to all elements and predators from their first moment?" "That's why human parents are so protective," Kim explained. "Our babies need constant care for years." The council members looked at each other, seemingly reassessing everything. They thought they knew about humans. Kim could almost see them recategorizing Earth in their collective understanding of the galaxy. "How extraordinary," whispered Councillor Park. "Simply extraordinary." And with those words, Kim knew that everything was about to change. The Galactic Council had just received its first lesson in human biology, and it had left them speechless. Tomorrow would bring 1,000 questions, but for now Kim couldn't help but smile at the thought that something as basic as birth had managed to shock some of the most knowledgeable beings in the galaxy. Kim couldn't sleep that night. The gentle hum of the station's life support systems did nothing to quiet her mind as she replayed the council meeting over and over. She had expected cultural differences, of course, but who would have thought human reproduction would cause such a stir? Her communication pad chimed before she'd even finished her morning coffee. 17 urgent messages waited, most from the Council's Biological Sciences Division. By the time she reached her office, a crowd had gathered outside. Scientists from at least 8 different species, all clutching data pads and looking eager. "Is it true?" asked a small blue-skinned scientist who introduced herself as Dr. Pesh. Her 4 eyes blinked rapidly in excitement. "About human reproductive methods?" Before Kim could answer, her assistant rushed over. "Ambassador, the Biological Sciences Division has called an emergency session. Your presence is strongly requested." "Strongly requested?" Kim raised an eyebrow. "The division head used a linguistic modifier that the translator struggled with," her assistant explained. "The closest human equivalent would be, 'Get here now,' or else." The Biological Sciences chamber was packed when Kim arrived. The normal seating arrangement had been abandoned, with scientists crowding wherever they could fit. At the center stood Chief Researcher Choi, a tall being with 6 limbs and skin that rippled with emotion-indicating colors. Right now, those colors were flashing an intense purple that Kim hadn't seen before. "Ambassador Kim, please come in." Choi's skin settled into a more neutral blue tone. "We have questions." "I gathered that," Kim said with a smile that she hoped appeared confident. She walked to the center of the room where a chair had been placed. It felt suspiciously like an interrogation setup. "We've reviewed the preliminary data from yesterday's council session," began Dr. Choi. "But we need to confirm certain details that seem improbable." Kim nodded. "I'll answer what I can." What followed was 2 hours of the most personal questions Kim had ever fielded. The scientists wanted to know everything: the exact duration of human pregnancy, the development stages of the fetus, the role of the placenta, the birth process itself. Kim found herself drawing diagrams on the chamber's holographic display, explaining concepts she hadn't thought about since high school biology class. "And there is only one offspring typically?" asked a researcher from a species that looked like a cross between a moth and a dolphin. "Usually just one, yes," Kim confirmed. "Twins happen in about 1 of every 250 births. Triplets or more are even rarer." The scientists exchanged glances that, even across species barriers, clearly communicated shock. "Our species produces clutches of 50 to 60 young," explained the moth-dolphin researcher. "Only about half survive to maturity, of course." "Inefficient," muttered another scientist, this one floating in a containment field filled with greenish gas. "One offspring represents significant biological investment with high risk of total reproductive failure." "But your species invests considerable resources in each individual young?" asked Dr. Bay, her 4 eyes widening. "Years of direct parental care?" "Yes," Kim said. "Human children typically live with their parents for at least 18 years. This prompted another round of furious note-taking and excited chatter. By midday, word had spread beyond the Biological Sciences Division. The station's information networks were buzzing with news about Earth's bizarre reproductive methods. Kim's communication pad kept chiming with interview requests from various alien media outlets. "Ambassador, you might want to see this," her assistant said, handing her a tablet. On screen was what appeared to be a hastily produced documentary, titled "The Strange Birth Habits of Earth Mammals." The video showed a crude animation of human reproduction that made Kim cringe. The narrator, a member of an aquatic species, described the process in tones of horrified fascination. Unlike rational beings who carefully deposit their genetic material in protective shells, these mammals carry their young inside their bodies, like parasites, then expel them through a painful and dangerous process. Most shocking of all, they then feed their young with secretions from their own bodies. "Great," Kim muttered. "I've been here 3 days, and I'm already the center of an interstellar biology scandal. A soft chime indicated someone at her office door. She looked up to see Counselor Doe, the reptilian who had inadvertently started this whole situation. "Ambassador?" "Kim," Doe said, scales flickering with what Kim now recognized as embarrassment. "May I enter?" Kim nodded, and the reptilian counselor stepped into the office, carefully closing the door. "I wish to extend my personal apologies," Doe said formally. "Had I known the question would cause such disruption, I would not have asked it," Kim smiled. "No need to apologize, Counselor. Cultural exchanges always involve surprises. I'm just sorry that my explanation has created such a commotion." Doe's head tilted slightly. "Is it true that human females can feel the young moving inside them?" "Yes," Kim said. "Around the 20th week of pregnancy, the baby starts kicking and moving. You can even see it sometimes, the movement visible from outside." Doe's scales rippled in what looked like a mixture of fascination and horror. "Remarkable," the counselor whispered, "and yet so intimate." As Doe left, Kim's communication pad chimed again. Another interview request, this time from a pan-galactic science program. The subject line read, "Human birth, evolutionary marvel." Or biological horror. Kim sighed. This was going to be a long assignment. She wondered what would happen when they found out about breastfeeding. 3 weeks after the initial revelation, Kim found herself in yet another uncomfortable meeting. This time it was with the Council's Cultural Integration Committee, a group responsible for helping new species adjust to galactic society. The committee rarely met directly with ambassadors, but human reproduction had triggered a cascade of questions about Earth culture that apparently couldn't wait. "Please understand our position, Ambassador Kim," said Councillor Jin, an elegant being with translucent skin that revealed shadowy organs beneath. "The way a species reproduces shapes their entire civilization. We're simply trying to properly categorize humans within our established frameworks." Kim nodded, though she felt a knot forming in her stomach. "I understand, Councillor. What exactly is your concern?" Jin's skin flushed slightly purple, embarrassment, Kim had learned. "There has been some debate about whether humans should be classified as a fully sentient species or as a primitive species with provisional status." "Excuse me?" Kim straightened in her chair. "Provisional status? Based on what criteria?" A holographic display lit up showing a complex chart. "Our standard classification system places significant weight on reproductive efficiency and evolutionary advancement," explained Councillor Jin. "Egg-laying is considered a more refined and advanced biological process. Internal gestation is typically associated with less developed species." Kim took a deep breath, reminding herself that getting angry wouldn't help. "Councillor Jin, with all due respect, that classification system seems biased toward egg-laying species." "It was developed by the founding members of the Council," Jin replied defensively. "All of whom happen to be egg-layers, yes, but the science is sound." "I see." Kim tried to keep her voice level. "And what exactly would provisional status mean for Earth?" "Merely that humans would have restricted voting rights on certain council matters," Jin said, as if this were perfectly reasonable. "And perhaps some limitations on technological exchange until your species demonstrates sufficient maturity." Kim felt her face grow hot. She had spent years training for this position, studying every aspect of diplomatic protocol, and nowhere in that training had anyone mentioned that humans might be considered second-class citizens because they didn't lay eggs. "I'd like to request a formal review of this classification system," Kim said firmly. "And I'd appreciate seeing the scientific basis for associating reproductive methods with species intelligence or maturity." Jin's skin darkened, discomfort, possibly even offense. "Ambassador, this system has been in place for centuries. It's not simply about intelligence, but about civilization stability. Egg-laying species tend to develop more structured societies with greater emphasis on community planning and future considerations. Because they have to build and protect." "Nests?" Kim asked. "Precisely." Jin seemed pleased that Kim understood. "Whereas mammals, with their internal gestation, typically evolve around immediate gratification, and emotional bonding patterns that can interfere with rational governance. Kim couldn't believe what she was hearing. Counselor Jin, humans have built complex civilizations, developed advanced technologies, created art and literature, and now achieved interstellar travel, all while being mammals. Exceptions can occur, Jin acknowledged with a gesture that seemed patronizing even across species barriers. And we do recognize that humans have made impressive progress despite your biological limitations. Before Kim could respond, another committee member spoke up. This one resembled something like a feathered octopus, with colorful plumage surrounding a central body with multiple tentacles. Ambassador, perhaps we could discuss human family structures, the being asked. Our research suggests that humans form extremely small family units centered around the offspring. Is this correct? Kim welcomed the change of subject. Yes, traditionally many human families consist of two parents and their children, though there are many variations. And these units make decisions independently? The feathered octopus sounded concerned. Without consulting the wider community? For personal matters, yes, Kim said. We value individual freedoms and privacy. This prompted a wave of murmuring among the committee members. But how do you ensure genetic diversity? Asked another counselor. Without community oversight of breeding pairs, Kim felt herself blush. Humans choose their own partners based on personal preference, compatibility, attraction, shared values. Attraction, Jin repeated the word as if it were foreign. You mean physical appearance influences? Reproductive decisions? Sometimes, yes, Kim admitted, wondering how this conversation had gone so wrong. The feathered octopus made a sound that the translator couldn't process, but that clearly conveyed distress. This explains much about human society's chaotic nature. No wonder your species struggles with unified purpose. Kim opened her mouth to object, then closed it again. She was suddenly aware that she was trying to defend concepts so fundamental to human existence that she had never had to articulate them before. Perhaps, she said carefully, we should take a step back. I think we're making assumptions based on our different experiences. Just as I'm learning about your cultures, I hope you'll take time to understand ours before making judgments. Jin's skin color shifted to a neutral blue. A fair request, Ambassador. Though I must inform you that the Classification Committee meets next week. They'll be reviewing Earth's status based on all available data. As Kim left the meeting, her assistant hurried alongside her. How did it go? Well, Kim sighed. Apparently we're uncivilized because we don't lay eggs, we're chaotic because we choose our own partners, and next week they're voting on whether humans get full rights in the council. Her assistant winced. That doesn't sound good. No, Kim agreed, a determined expression crossing her face. But I've got a week to change their minds, and I plan to use every minute of it. She tapped her communication pad and started drafting a message. If the council thought humans were primitive because of how they reproduced, they clearly needed an education in Earth biology. And Kim knew exactly how to deliver it. Request for special council presentation, Kim typed into her communication. Subject, comprehensive overview of Earth biological diversity. Her fingers hovered over the send button for just a moment before she pressed it firmly. This was a gamble, but she was out of options. To her surprise, the council granted her request immediately. Perhaps they were as curious as they were judgmental. Within 3 days, Kim had transformed the main council chamber into an immersive presentation space with help from her small Earth delegation team. Ambassador, are you sure about this? Asked her assistant, nervously adjusting the holographic projectors. The Classification Committee meets tomorrow. I'm sure, Kim said, though her stomach was in knots. Sometimes the best defense is a good education. The council members filed in, taking their usual seats. Kim could feel their curious gazes. Word had spread about this special presentation, and attendance was at maximum capacity. Even species that rarely participated in general sessions had sent representatives. Head Councillor Park called the session to order. Ambassador Kim has requested this special informational session regarding Earth biology. Given the upcoming classification review, we have granted this request. Ambassador, you may proceed. Kim stepped to the center of the chamber, taking a deep breath. Esteemed councillors, thank you for this opportunity. Over the past weeks, I've become aware that there are significant misconceptions about Earth biology. That may be influencing your perception of humans. Today, I'd like to provide a more complete picture. She activated the first holographic display. The chamber darkened as a three-dimensional image of Earth appeared, slowly rotating. Earth is home to approximately 8.7 million different species, Kim began. Of these, humans represent just one. What makes Earth remarkable is not any single species, but the incredible diversity of life that has evolved there. The hologram shifted, showing a parade of Earth animals, from tiny insects to massive whales, colorful birds to deep-sea creatures that looked as alien as any council member. What I'd like to focus on today is the diversity of reproductive methods that have evolved on our single planet, Kim continued. While humans are mammals who give birth to live young, Earth has developed virtually every reproductive strategy imaginable. The display changed to show a turtle laying eggs on a beach. Many Earth reptiles lay eggs, similar to several council species. She nodded respectfully toward Councillor Doe, who blinked appreciatively. Next came images of fish releasing clouds of eggs and sperm into water. Some species produce thousands or even millions of eggs at once, with external fertilization. Kim moved through example after example: marsupials with pouches, seahorses where males carried the young, plants with complex pollination strategies, asexual reproduction in certain lizards, metamorphosis in insects and amphibians. But what may be most interesting, Kim said, carefully watching the council's reactions, is how adaptable Earth life can be. She brought up an image of a particular frog species. This frog normally lays eggs. However, when environmental conditions become harsh, it can change its reproductive strategy. The female will retain the eggs inside her body, where they develop until fully formed froglets emerge. Murmurs spread through the chamber. One councillor from an aquatic species leaned forward, all 4 eye stalks extended in obvious interest. Similarly, Kim continued, this fish species can change its sex based on social conditions in its group. The hologram showed the transformation process. If the dominant male of a group dies, the largest female will physically transform into a male within days. Several councillors made sounds of astonishment. One appeared to need assistance from a medical drone, and perhaps most remarkable, Kim said, bringing up a new image, are creatures like the bedelloid rotifer. These microscopic animals can completely dry out, remaining in a dehydrated state for up to 9 years. When water returns, they rehydrate and continue living. During dry periods, their DNA breaks into pieces. Upon rehydration, they reassemble their genome, sometimes incorporating genetic material from their environment. The council chamber erupted in shocked exclamations. Councillor Jin's normally translucent skin had turned an opaque white. Ambassador, interrupted Head Councillor Park, are you suggesting these creatures voluntarily break apart their genetic code and then rebuild it? Not voluntarily, Kim explained. It's an evolutionary adaptation. Earth species have faced repeated extinction-level events throughout our planet's history. This has created intense evolutionary pressure to develop adaptability. Kim brought up a timeline of Earth's major extinction events. 5 times in Earth's history, more than 75% of all species were wiped out. Each time, the survivors adapted and diversified, filling ecological niches in new ways. She could see the council members exchanging glances, their body language shifting from skepticism to fascination. Humans are just one example of this adaptability, Kim continued. While our reproductive method may seem unusual to some council members, it represents one successful strategy among many that evolved on our planet. Kim moved to her conclusion, showing images of Earth's various ecosystems. Earth isn't a planet of primitive species waiting to evolve proper egg-laying. It's a planet where biological innovation has been driven by crisis and change for billions of years, producing extraordinary diversity and resilience. She deactivated the hologram, and the chamber lights returned to normal. I hope this information will be considered during tomorrow's classification review. Thank you for your attention. For a moment, complete silence filled the chamber. Then Councillor Du stood up. I move that the classification review be postponed, the reptilian announced. I believe we need time to properly reassess our understanding of Earth biology. Seconded, said the aquatic councillor, eye stalk still fully extended. And I further move that we establish a formal scientific exchange program with Earth immediately. Head Councillor Park looked around the chamber. The motion appears to have widespread support. Ambassador Kim, your presentation has been most illuminating. As Kim left the chamber, she noticed Councillor Jin waiting by the door. Ambassador, Jin said quietly, skin now a deep blue color Kim hadn't seen before. I believe I owe you an apology. It seems our classification system may have certain biases we hadn't recognized. Kim smiled. No apology needed, Councillor. Learning about our differences and similarities is why we're all here, isn't it? As she walked away, Kim heard councillors still excitedly discussing Earth biology. One was asking if humans could create an exhibit of Earth animals for the station. Another wanted to establish a research outpost on Earth immediately. The tables had definitely turned. Earth was no longer the primitive newcomer with strange reproductive habits. Now it was the exciting mystery planet with biological wonders beyond imagination. Bright holographic banners floated overhead, casting multicolored light across the crowded station promenade. The Galactic Council's annual Cultural Exchange Festival was in full swing, and Kim couldn't help but smile as she made her way through the bustling crowds. 6 months ago, she'd been a newcomer struggling to defend humanity's place among the stars. Now she walked with confidence, nodding to the many council members who greeted her by name. Ambassador Kim, called a melodic voice. Councillor Lee's bioluminescent form glowed brightly as they approached. Your Earth exhibition has created quite the sensation. The waiting line extends past 3 habitat sections. Kim laughed. I had to call in favors from 3 different Earth universities just to staff the booths. I never expected this level of interest. They paused at a viewpoint overlooking the main exhibition hall. Below them, the human section bustled with activity. Unlike the static displays of most other species, the Earth exhibition was dynamic and interactive. Visitors could touch replicas of various Earth animals, view time-lapse videos of plant growth, and participate in simulations of Earth's diverse ecosystems. The most popular attraction is still the reproduction exhibit, Lee noted, their skin patterns shifting in what Kim now recognized as amusement. Kim nodded. What had begun as a defensive explanation of human biology had blossomed into the festival's main draw. The reproduction exhibit showcased Earth's varied approaches to creating new life, from splitting bacteria to flowering plants, egg-laying reptiles to live-bearing mammals. Ambassador! A small blue figure pushed through the crowd. Dr. Bay from the Biological Sciences Division. All 4 of her eyes were wide with excitement. The platypus simulation just arrived from Earth. Can we install it immediately? Of course, Kim smiled. A platypus? Asked Councillor Lee curiously. An egg-laying mammal, Kim explained. It's become something of a celebrity here. The Biological Sciences Division has a waiting list of researchers who want to study the preserved specimen we brought from Earth. Egg-laying mammal, Lee repeated, their bioluminescence pulsing with interest. Just when we think we understand Earth biology, you surprise us again. As they continued walking, Kim reflected on how much had changed. The initial shock over human reproduction had given way to fascination with Earth's biological diversity. That fascination had grown into respect, and respect had blossomed into collaboration. They passed a lecture hall where a human zoologist was giving a presentation on sexual selection in peacocks. The room was packed, with some attendees even sitting in the aisles. Next door, a botanist demonstrated pollination using an oversized model of a flower, while visitors from a gaseous species floated in rapt attention. Ambassador Kim, called a familiar voice. Councillor Doe approached, scales gleaming in ceremonial colors. The reptilian was accompanied by a smaller figure, clearly a juvenile of their species. May I introduce my eldest offspring, son? They have just been accepted to the Earth Exchange Program. Congratulations, Kim said warmly, bowing to the young reptilian. What will you be studying? Mammalian developmental biology, son replied eagerly. specifically how embryonic development differs between egg-laying and live-bearing species. An E. Excellent field, Kim nodded. Earth's universities are excited to welcome students from across the galaxy. Thanks to you, Councillor Doe said, voice filled with genuine respect. 6 months ago, many thought Earth would receive only provisional status in the Council. Now you sit on 3 major committees, and Earth hosts more scientific exchanges than any other new member world in Council history. Kim felt a flush of pride, but kept her expression modest. Earth has much to learn from galactic society as well. Our scientists are particularly interested in your species' ability to influence the sex of offspring through egg temperature regulation. A fair exchange of knowledge, Doe agreed, though I still cannot watch your human birth videos without feeling lightheaded. They shared a laugh, something that would have been unimaginable during those tense first meetings. Kim's communication pad chimed with a message from her assistant. The council chair wishes to see you immediately, it read. Urgent but positive. News. Excuse me, Kim said to her companions. It seems I'm needed elsewhere. She made her way to the council's private chambers, wondering what could be so urgent during a festival. Head Councillor Park was waiting, along with representatives from the Science and Budget Committees. Ambassador Kim, Park greeted her formally. We have just concluded an emergency session of the Funding Committee. Kim felt a moment of concern. Emergency budget sessions usually meant cuts, not additions. The committee has unanimously approved the establishment of the Galactic Reproductive Biology Institute, Park continued, with its headquarters to be located on Earth. Full funding has been allocated for the next 20 years. For a moment, Kim couldn't speak. The institute had been proposed months ago, but most new scientific initiatives took years of debate before approval. To have it approved so quickly, with such long-term funding. This is wonderful news, she finally managed. Earth will be honored to host such an important institution. It was the logical choice, said the Budget Committee representative, a crystalline being who rarely showed emotion. No other known world offers such diversity of reproductive strategies in a single biosphere. The research potential is unparalleled. The vote was unanimous, Park added. Even species who initially questioned Earth's status now recognize the unique perspective humans bring to the Council. As the meeting concluded and formal documents were transferred to her communication pad, Kim found herself standing alone at a viewport, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, a tiny blue marble that had somehow captured the imagination of an entire galactic community. Her pad chimed again with another message from her assistant. Councillor Jin is giving a speech at the main hall crediting your biological revelation as the most significant cultural exchange in recent Council history. Media from 27 worlds are covering it live. Kim smiled to herself. Who would have thought that humans' lack of eggs would lead to all this? That one awkward question about hatching rituals would transform humanity's place in the galaxy. As she turned to rejoin the festival, she caught sight of her reflection in the viewport glass. She looked different somehow, more confident, more at home among the stars. In just 6 months, she had gone from defending humanity's right to be here to helping shape the future of interspecies understanding. All because humans didn't hatch from eggs.